going on, Montgomery, Texas? Welcome to episode 127, season 8 of Talking Throws podcast, Texas style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Janelle.
And we are throws coaches with the Thorn Factory. We're here throws coaches with the Thorn Factory. You can go to that website, thethornfactory.com, to check out our bios. On that site as well, you'll see a shopping apparel page. So if you're looking for some cool items to be wearing at your next track meet, go shop there, please. Also, you will find links for Michelle Gregovich for four throws and for Fiber Sports Discus at the bottom of the homepage. And then you'll find information about our other coaches as well. Coach Morgan Knight, Knight Power and Performance, Coach Jarvis East at the Thorn Factory, Killer North at the Thorn Factory, and our new javelin coach, Kendall Ludy. Without our sponsors, we can't do what we do, so big shout out to them. First, we want to thank fourthrows.com for what they do. You can use that code TalkingThrows10 to get that 10% off. If you go to that site right now, you can find information for cages and for rings, shot put disc. They actually are selling starting blocks. They have hurdles now. They have standards for high jump as well. So not only are they doing throws, but now you can find running. Our next sponsor is Texas Track and Field Coach Association, led by Mr. Stuart Cantor. He is prepping for that January 3rd and 4th, 2025 Winter Clinic. It was just announced that Mr. Joe Brown, 2024 Olympian in Paris, is going to be doing the Discus talk. And then Michelle Carter, the 2026 gold medal medalist, and also the American record holder, is going to be doing the talk for shot put, along with many other. Carl Lewis is even scheduled to be there. Jasmine Moore is even going to do a talk. There's a round table. Sue Humphreys is going to be doing a talk as well. So we want to thank Fiber Sports Discus being a sponsor and being loyal to us. If you're looking for a new way to throw the discus, what better way than Fiber Sports? They have a range of discus from that beginner youth, the rain, all the way up to the high level, Olympian. So they have the range that you need, and it's just kind of a new way to get, a new feel for discus. So go to that website, fibersportsdiscus.com. If you have any questions, you can contact Bruce Caldwell. But for us, importantly, if you want to purchase one, you got to go through fourthrows.com and use that code TalkingThrows10 to get that 10% off. NTX Timing, ran by Carl Hornback. We love Carl. They're doing a great job. They're in the middle of their cross country right now. But if you're looking for somebody to run your meet, organize your meet in the spring of 2025, reach out to NTX Timing. He does a lot of high school meets, but he needs to do more summer meets, and we need to get those summer meets results posted online so those kids can get credit for those results. And NTX Timing is the organization that will do that. Then big shout out to Big Frogs Colleyville that handles all our bordering. Also lifting DFW. If you're looking to learn how to Olympic lift, reach out to me. Liftingdfw.com is the site. We have that mobile fitness station that I can bring to you anywhere. And then remind everybody about our YouTube channel. We're starting to get a lot of subscriptions and thumbs up for that, and even comments. So just continue to give us feedback, and we'll try to bring the best content we can. Today's guest on episode 127 is the founder and director of Knight Power and Performance. In 2020, he was a GA at Abilene Christian University under Coach Jerrod Cook. He also attended Abilene Christian University from 2015 to 2019, I got that right, with PRs of 1761 in shot, 5770 in hammer, and then 5723 in discus. He was a 2014 grad of Spring Hill High School in East Texas, with a high school PR of 60 feet 3 inches in the shot, and in the discus through 178. Please welcome to episode 127 of season 8 of Talking Throws podcast, Texas style, Coach Morgan Knight. So Morgan, we're going to get started. So kind of update everybody on what you're kind of doing currently. And, I think you're a proud father of two now, and tell us, how your family is.
Yeah, so now, obviously, like full-time, I work for an oil and gas accounting software company called Pack Energy. It was previously Wolfpack. It's been around, like it was established in Abilene like in 1986, so it's been around a long time. The good thing about that is, I was in the car business before, and so, I can travel to like last year I went to Cisco, I went to Austin, I went to, I can go and like travel with the kids. I mean, my kids, but also the kids that I'm coaching. So that's a bit, I can leave early on a Thursday if they have, when they have the district and regional meets and those take place during the day, I can just leave the house and go over and coach. So that's been big. So still coaching on the side. A lot of the kids that I work with out here are they do everything, sports wise. And so, until they, I let them do that. And then usually about this time, I start kind of making some posts and start trying to get them to do some fundamentals. That way, I mean, at the very least, if they get done, when they get done volleyball, football, and all that good stuff, just, hey, let's get in here and start doing some basic stuff so that you're not just starting from complete scratch, just kind of getting your body a foundation. Yeah. And my wife is, she's pole vaulter at Abilene Christian. I've got my two girls, Tilden and Lainey.
Okay.
They are 2 and fixing to be 1. Lainey's going to be 1 at the end of October.
Awesome.
So we have our hands full. But I mean that in the best of ways. There, because Tilden's kind of a teenager, but it's like in a good way. She's got enough words to pretty much say what she wants, but those ones that she doesn't have, she just gets frustrated that she can't communicate what she wants. But for the most part, they're a lot like their dad. Like they just, give them a snack and they're happy. And, I mean, they don't, if they get hangry pretty easy, and you gotta get them out and get them exercising, moving around, or they get grumpy, or, they get a little stir crazy. And, so that's good. I like taking, Tilden likes to come up to the gym and, like I was doing kettlebell swings the other day, and then she'll go grab a little one and try to swing it. And, so it's cool. She'll get on the rower and like try to row. And so yeah, I'm just like full fledged, like dad life and working and just trying to, take care of my family.
Yeah. So why do night power and performance with such a busy life? Is that just kind of God's calling for you because you're a dad, you're married, you've been from the car business into the oil field, but you're still doing the throwing side, and you started night power and performance. Kind of tell us why.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I had it my way, I would probably be coaching full time.
Yeah.
Whether or not that would be at a university or just doing my own thing on the side. But I mean, just that athlete switch really hasn't turned off for me. Kind of had an opportunity to train for the trials, and then COVID hit. Was kind of like on the cusp of the top 24 at that time, training for hammer shot and disc. And so I just, you just kind of had that I still was so close to it. Felt like I kind of had some unfinished business. But even to this day, like my brain still thinks athlete type thing. So it's just hard to, like, I still like, okay, I got to eat this many grams of protein a day and, got to train. And, but really, it's that part of it is like kind of the selfish side of it. And the fact that I just love throwing. Like I geek out on it. Like I'm keeping up, the guys that are still competing at Abilene Christian or wherever else, like I can talk to them about what happens, around the country just as well as they can. The guys that threw at the Olympics this year, I'm watching them, and I'm like, I've watched them compete in college, and I've got it pulled up on my phone while I'm at work. And I mean, I just truly love throwing. But the other aspect is that, and this is I'm going to be, like you said, politically correct when I say this, but it's, coaches, Texas or wherever, they've got so much on their plate from teaching, and then they got to coach, 2 sports at least, and they're working crazy out. Teachers and coaches, in my opinion, are the most important positions in education, and they don't get paid like it, and they should, to be honest. But it's really a shame. But they, think of like, top level athletes. They talk about this coach that had this, this impact on them. And, it's just, they spend so much time, if the kids are going to spend that much time at school, having very influential figures that in their life is very important. So, the way that I think of it is you've got kids that, in Texas, it's volleyball, basketball, football, in track and field is, if you're fast, hey, you're fast, and Texas has fast people for sure.
Yeah.
But throwing is such a technical sport, and you have to put so much time into it and they've got so many kids in this amount of time that it's just hard for those kids to get, the kind of the intentional training, the time to put into it that they need. But like Ryan Blake, who's throwing at TCU right now, is a perfect example of a kid that it has athletically has the tools and mentally has the tools and the passion for it. Like you listen to a lot of pro athletes, and a lot of ways they get there is just because they work their tail off. They work harder than anybody else. Yeah, they're pretty talented, but a lot of times it's just they just outwork the person next to them. And Ryan Blake is a perfect example of a kid that, now he's like 6'4", 250 or whatever. But like in college, or in high school, he was, 6'2" and kind of hung around 215. He played football, and he wanted to be a part of the football team to play with the boys. And that was great. And he did a great job. But, he didn't have the savvy for football. Like he just didn't have it. And so, but by God, he sure as heck had it for throwing. And he walked on at TCU, and don't be surprised if that kid comes out and makes some noise. I know the Big 12 was loaded in the disc last year.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff where you get kids that they don't even realize, some of the kids think that like throwing is just for the fat kids that can't run go, but it's like, it's not, it ain't that. Like the best throwers in the world are the most powerful and athletic humans on the face of the planet. Kovacs, Krauser, Allman, like the Canadian girl, the shot putter, like the German girl. I mean, the hammer throwers. I mean, the Canadian kid. Like, I mean, they're just there's just so many kids that have the potential to go and be great throwers, and they may not know it just because, God love them, those coaches don't have enough time outside of what they're already coaching. So that's a big part of it, is just, giving those kids an avenue to, hey, like being a college athlete is one of the great, in my opinion, like you get to everything that you do is you're making yourself the best version of yourself athletically, mentally. I mean, all of that. And that is a great time of your life. And those are great things. And so if anybody has that desire, I want them to experience it. And I want to help them as much as I can.
Yeah.
That's really where it comes from.
Did you have coaches, whether it was in high school or maybe Coach Cook at Abilene Christian, that really kind of mentored you and kind of fueled your passion and maybe your coach's style, to get where you're at today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, in high school, so my offensive and defensive line coach, he was the throws coach, and he was great. His name's Coach Chat. He's the principal at Union Grove High School now.
Oh,
but
okay.
Coach David Chatterton, Coach Chat. He was great. Like, man, I've got some stories about Coach Chat. Like, I'm still, when I go home, like I go see him, my kids call him the Grand Chat. Like, I mean, he's, again, like to the point that you have a coach in your life that has an impact. So I had him, and I had a guy named Timmy Jordan, and his daughter actually threw at Tarleton State, Leslie Jordan, I think.
Okay.
But he was he just loved the throws. He coached his kids in the throws, until like his son had the shot put record at my high school until I came around, and he coached me. He just saw me like staying after practice, and he would come by and just like, he's kind of an old guy that's retired that just kind of, wanted to see what was out there. And he'd come by while I was practicing late, if Chat had to go do something else, like, again, the demands of a coach.
Yeah.
Well, he just got out there and was like, man, you remind me of, Al Moeller, or, like he would, not Al Moeller. I'm thinking of the other guy. Gosh, what's his name? He did the Coke commercials. He was like a 4-time Olympic champ in the disc, like the only person to do that. Order. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
He would talk about Al Order. He would talk about Oldfield. He would talk about all these guys that were, just throwing legends. And so I geeked out on it. I was like, man, look at these guys. This is awesome, right? And I'm like full meathead, zone right there. So that's, that was a big part for me, was him. And then Coach Chat. I mean, my junior and senior year, when we were done with football, I mean, we were working out in the mornings, throwing after school, or vice versa. I mean, he'd come up there with me and work out with me and stay late. I mean, and Coach, Timmy Jordan was out there with me. So I had several offers to go play football. But, the difference for me, especially, after I kind of found that desire for throwing and I really enjoyed it, Coach Cook was really, so my official visit, like Nick Jones was there, right?
Yeah.
Baptiste was there. He's a 63-meter hammer thrower. Lauren was there. I mean, like stud Abilene Christian University throwers were at my official visit. And then Coach Cook is just, I mean, one of the greatest humans you'll ever meet. And so, you know what, the deciding factor to choose track over football was really just that camaraderie that I saw. And, you know, to be honest, like, you know, there's a stigma of football coaches where they kind of MF you to, you know, as a source of motivation. Didn't see that from Cook. I really didn't want that. That's just not, that doesn't help me at all. It just makes me mad at you, you know?
Yeah.
And Coach Cook, I could just see the family atmosphere, but I could also see like, man, these people, they're in here to work. And, you know, it's just, so it kind of just caught the fire. But as far as coaching wise, yeah, everything, you know, we kind of think of Coach Cook. I was joking because, you know, Josh Hunter, I don't know if you remember him, but
Yeah.
he's coaching Hardin Simmons. He's gonna be throws coach Hardin Simmons.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so we were joking like, Coach, what if you're like the Saban of throwing, you know, and we all like branch it, you know. So we were joking about that the other night. But I've taken his concepts of throwing, and then through that and through, you know, I watch a lot of Dane over at Throws University.
Yeah.
You know, watching him, or just, you know, picking up on, you know, I watch like training videos or coaches from other coaches, you know, Scion, down there, you know, I just kind of pick things that I like, but generally speaking, the concepts that Cook has, that's like the base of everything that I do. And then I just kind of apply, like, I tell my throwers all the time, guys, we're kinesiological physicists. Okay.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
I can
How
how do
about,
you spell that?
yeah. How about, yeah. You didn't think throwers knew that many syllables, but, you know, so because it is like there's aspects of it where you have to understand physics. Everything has to move in the same direction. You've got, you know, potential energy that turns into kinetic energy, and how to, you know, what pulls away from that, you know. And then the kinesiological is the word that I have. I think it's a real word. But
It's
that,
We'll go with
yeah,
it.
like a
that's
word
you
on
know,
top.
yeah, that's kind of like a very scientific word for the meathead part of it. You know, you've got to learn how to make your body powerful and strong to throw heavy implement. Where these are the heaviest implements anybody's throwing, the heaviest things anybody's throwing in the world. We got to be ready for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's funny.
Kinesiological
So
physics.
so with social media like it is today, do you view that as an asset? Because you said you watch some online stuff with Dane, and you know, look at other places as a resource. But what that high school kid, do you feel that's an asset to them to go out and learn? And I say that because we come from the generation where there was the Al Feuerbach and Matt Wilson VHS, and we
Yeah,
stick it, and that's really all we had.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and so that was what we copied and trying to like, oh, we got to look like that. But now social media, there's all this information out there. What's your perspective?
I mean, I don't utilize it enough. I would say it's probably the reason I keep my Facebook is for when I make posts about throws camps or about practicing started up, like those parents take it and run with it. They share it. You get 50 shares and you just, you know, got 10 kids or whatever. So from that aspect for sure. But you know, I watched a lot of YouTube videos when I was in high school, which I know a
Okay.
lot of high schoolers like me did. And I think that's a great asset. I will say that it was a tough habit to break when I got to college. You know, I was still hanging on to like, you know, some of my high school like tendencies,
Techniques.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, you guys know as well as anybody that bad habit, you know, like you can create some bad habits and those can be hard to break. And so um I definitely, but yeah, I mean, again, if you get into, depends on the coach that you've got to have that kind of stuff. And like to your point also, like there's more stuff around, more material around than there was when I was in high school. Not that that was that long ago, but it was 10 years. I'm actually got my 10-year reunion in November. So, but yeah, like Dane, like his little snippets, like I have, you know, I was so into spin, you know, rotational all through college and everything. When I started coaching kids in the glide, I was like, crap, I got to remember how to do the glides. So like Dane was really helpful with that. You know, I think Arit Throws Nation has some good. I got to pull some stuff from there every now and
Yeah.
again. You know, he's got some fundamental stuff. Krauser having a YouTube video or a YouTube page is great. You know, I like Scion, if he goes and posts like some of his throwing circuits that he does with his kids, like, you know, you know, I wouldn't say that I like copy them. Some of them I do. Some of them you just got to because they're that good.
Yeah.
But you can use it like I was already kind of thinking this. but watching him do it, and he's been coaching for this much longer, man, I can tweak that based on like the development level of my athlete and, that kind of stuff. So, man, I think there needs to be parameters. You kind of have to have your tugboats that keep you in line. But yeah, man, I mean, I think for kids that I can't tell you how many times, like my girl last year, Kate, I would always like a cue for her that I used was Valerie Almond hips. I was like, you got to watch how her hips drive her across the ring. And we watched YouTube videos and Instagram videos of her doing that. And so Valerie was training at the state meet in the back, and everybody was watching her like she was, at a zoo exhibit. It was funny.
Yeah.
But I mean but then she got to meet her, and she was just giddy. And so that kind of stuff is so cool to me. Like it's a great thing for the sport because you can get in and learn stuff about these throwers that you wouldn't normally know. And, they're not going to broadcast it on, ESPN or whatever. So yeah, I think it's definitely an asset, and it can definitely help like kind of lighter fluid on your already like pretty good fire for throwing. I just think, everything in moderation, depending on, what your coach says,
Yeah.
That's important, like so what your coach said, because we've had kids before who change the way they throw every day. Today I want to be like Ryan Krauser. Today I want to be like, and they're watching so much that it gets to be too much. And you're like, well, you're not 6'7", you're not
exactly,
Ryan Krauser, and you're not this. So there are like you said, I like the tugboat. Stay in the parameters of what your coach
you
tells
can't. Yeah, like not everybody
all
can.
those people.
Not everybody can squat 705 for 10 reps like Kovac. Like.
And your body's not gonna move like theirs moves.
Yeah.
You said something earlier about the glide, and give me your perspective as a former collegiate athlete, but also now coaching a lot of high school kids. Is glide still a useful asset for high school athletes? Do we want to still teach the glide? And
man, that's a good question.
Versus because I have kids come to me that I'm a rotational thrower. And I'm like, okay, well, kind of where did you start your rotation? It's like, I don't know. I just kind of started doing it. My junior high coach started me to start spinning around. And I'm like, you're not a rotational thrower.
You just ain't,
But then they're like, oh, the glide is taboo. Like, I don't want to do the glide. So what's your perspective?
I think it's several factors, one of which you have to look at the end goal. So, like, all right, do they just want to like maximize what they have during their high school years? They're not going to pursue it post high school. And are they more comfortable with gliding than they are spinning? I generally think that like, to me, gliding or rotational works for all shapes and sizes, right? Like obviously you got the two polar opposites. Kovacs is 5'11" and like 6 foot wide, and Krauser's 6'7", 5 foot wide. He's he ain't narrow, that's for sure. But so I think glide. But that being said, like glide seems simpler, but and in some ways it is. But I also think that there's more room for you can't create as much power, in my opinion. But I think you got to look at the end goal, and you got to look at how the kid's built. Because some folks are just built for the glide, and they're just better off on the glide. And Michael Carter, Storl, the Polish guy that beat Christian Cantwell in 08 or whatever. Yeah. I mean, there's been some great gliders. But look at, Carter was he was just one of those physical freaks. And he was so smooth, and like it's very hard for somebody to really think that you can get the same like right leg, the same finish that he had, and then stay at the angle that he would. He just did so many things so well. But again, like Kiana last year, she was a stud athlete. She could do anything, but ultimately, like, she felt it was her senior year. She felt more comfortable doing the glide. She wasn't gonna, continue to do throwing after the fact. So it was like, you know what? We're just gonna run with what we can. I wanted to teach Kate. I got a hold of Kate a little too late to start teaching her the spin, and us get the most out of it. But I think it's all about endpoint, how the kid's built, and what's comfortable for him. But I think, again, like, to me, rotational, all shapes and sizes. And I know you feel that way too.
Yeah, I will point out the fact maybe a little bit different is I can see a lot more females being maybe a better glider just because of what they do outside the ring of in the lifting and stuff.
Yeah.
And that seeing and carrying over because when we were at the Olympics, in Paris, watching those qualifying rounds, there was 12 girls, not half the field, but probably about 10, that
Yeah.
were gliders still competing and popping out. And I think Gong and one other glider made the top 12 on the finals day, but Gong made, the top 5, but the other one bombed out. I think she got 12.
Does that is she Jamaican? No, from the Congo
Yes, yes.
or something like that.
No,
Yeah.
Mom's from China.
no, Gong's from China. He's talking about the other person.
Oh.
Now the
The
big girl from Portugal, she wasn't at the Olympic because she was injured. But this other girl was from not Belgium.
did she get third? Gosh, maybe that was at World Champs. Maybe I'm thinking of the girl at World Champs. There was like a Jamaican or a like somebody.
I'll have to look. I'd have to look. There was a German girl that did the glide.
Yeah.
There was Gong. There's like 2 or 3. There was about 10 of them. But just, and so the glide, just from a girl's perspective, even if she's not the most athletic thing in the world, the concept of the glide they can learn, and especially in high school nowadays, if they go out and throw 35 feet and it doesn't look great, they're still competitive.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And they still kind of like, okay, I might win district with 35 feet. Like if I get up to 37, then I can get maybe to regionals. You see what I'm saying? Just to try to give them a little bit success.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. First of all, I didn't know y'all went to Paris.
Oh, you did, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, it was the best time. We went out there to support Deanna and JC for Hammer. We had our little Deanna Price shirts on and stuff, but we
That's
got
awesome.
we got to see her do finals. We got to see Ryan and them do qualifying for shot put. Valerie qualifying for Hammer.
Yeah.
Joe Brown
and Joe Brown and
Joe
Yeah.
Brown.
Discus
Crazy.
as well.
I
And,
met
man,
I met that.
it was just unbelievable. If you've never been to the Olympics, dude, it was the best sporting event and best track environment that I've ever been in.
Man. Yeah, that's a bucket list trip for sure. May have to maybe because it's in LA in 28,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Dude, you know what I'm really interested to see if Krauser and Kovacs, because they're gonna be like 40 by then. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like
Ryan's a little younger, but that is
yeah.
I think so. Ryan's debating, I think, a little bit just on hearsay stuff, from people in his camp, from other people, is he's going to try maybe this, and then maybe discus possibility. He's starting this American shot put league. Have you heard about that?
Dude,
and I
think
he's
so excited.
Yeah, and I think some of that stuff, and there's even talk of them starting to try to go to the Highland Games and start implementing some of those shot put competitions and throwing down a portable ring and having some stuff as well while those games are going on.
Yeah.
And I think some of those guys might even try to do some of the Highland Games events and stuff like that just to kind of build a throwing community around. So
that's awesome. So my father-in-law has he was a pole vaulter for the US back in like the late 80s, early 90s, toured Europe, did all that. No, he's like good buddies with Mondo's dad. Like,
okay.
Yeah, he calls him, he's Greg Duplantis. Well, my father-in-law's Greg West. He calls him Dupe. Like, they're buddies. They text all the time. Like, and he's still that way. He was with Billy and like, Brad Pursley and like Tim, all those guys, like that were just stud. They all ran around together. Anyways, well, he's moving up to Houston and it's growing big. So, basically within the next like few months, we're probably going to move to Houston because my wife is going to help coach. Because he's got a ton of kids. But basically his thought was just like, yeah, dude, like you can use the connections that I've made here and just branch off and start doing throw stuff. And the idea, he does the beach vault every summer down in Port A, which is like, I don't know if it still is, but at one point is the largest outdoor pole vault event in the world. I mean,
Oh, wow.
so ideally that would be cool if, like, again, kind of your thought, that's like big, like, future things, but
Yeah.
like we could make a throwing portion of that. That would be really cool too.
Yeah.
So I love all this, like, man, let's try to grow the sport. Cause I mean, they have, like, for their own reasons. Cause I mean, that's, 3 gold medals in a row for Krauser. And like, people are like, oh, this really giant guy, like, oh, he threw and then Kovacs, like, he squatted 800 for this, and so like people in other realms that are kind of close to it are like paying
Yes.
attention a little bit more. Valerie is like, again, kind of beats the stigma of like, oh, you just got to be a big fat person to throw. And so I love it. I love it. I got all that kind of stuff is great.
Yeah. Do you know where y'all are going to be moving to Houston to?
Well, they live in Montgomery, and
Oh,
so
okay.
we'll probably move and like be there with them like for a little while. They've got to get their house closed and everything,
Gotcha.
and so we kind of want to give them a little time before like 2 kids and our dogs come and like raid their house. But sometime within the next few months, it just kind of, that's the hard part, is like trying to move while I'm still like 100 miles an hour with work and everything. But yeah,
Let
that's
me
the
know when
plan.
that
So
happens, like officially, because I still get quite a few calls from the Houston area. I
okay.
do train a couple kids online from the Houston area, but driving up, some people don't
Yeah.
like doing it. But
Yeah.
there's been a couple other clubs in the Houston area that's kind of stopped doing some stuff as much as they used to, and another guy kind of taking off a little bit. So there's a
It's,
kind of a big open gap in the Houston area
yeah.
of maybe not competitive clubs, so to speak. So
Yeah, that's
we,
my thought. So like grow the Houston area, then that's only a couple, that's way closer to like Longview, like East Texas. So I would go home and do like, kind of home camps. Like I've got friends that are coaches at Hallsville, obviously go
yeah,
to Spring Hill, try to bop around to Gilmer, see what coaches are there that may remember the days of the District of Doom and all that stuff, and just
yeah,
see, obviously Coach Chad at Union Grove, just, try to just again like do camps, but grow the awareness of the sport and like get those kids some good reps. I've actually got, and this could be a good thing. My like protege, I guess you could say, he throws at ACU right now, but he wants to coach, and he texted me last year, hey, could I come out and like, just learn from you? I was like, yeah, dude, come on. So he's kind of like my coaching assistant. So basically my thought would be like, I would just turn over the reins of all the contacts I have over there to Josh and to this kid. He's like a 5th-year senior, 8th-year senior, whatever they are with COVID. But, so I would just turn it over to them, and they would work the big country side of things.
okay,
So we could still keep a presence there, still keep the kids, growing in the throws out there. So,
awesome, awesome.
yeah.
So you threw hammer in college from a kid that didn't throw hammer in high school. So kind of what's your love for hammer now, and for a high school kid maybe wanting to pick that third implement up like hammer, what would you say they need to do, and then how would you maybe kind of break them down and build them up, so to speak, from a coach's perspective?
Yeah. So I was with Kate this year. We were going to try to make a run at her walking on at A&M, because she's 5'11", she's a volleyball, but she's athletic. I mean, she gained a lot of strength, and so this summer, and she had a crazy summer travel wise, but basically it's just like heel toe, just get them doing turns. And I'm a lot of things that I do on the coaching side, I make them do left, non-dominant reps, right? Because like, your mind is crossed with your body. And so developmentally, it'll keep them from getting wound up on that one side. But also, if they can teach their brain to talk to their left side, theoretically they're right, it's going to work better on their dominant side, because it's all about connection. It's, throwing's a rep sport, right? Like, yeah, you could be all, however athletic or strong you want to be, but like you have to have the reps to get the feel for like making changes and executing techniques. And so, I'll do at this time of year and early in the spring semester, we're doing just as many rights and lefts for like our warm-up reps and our fronts. And then like I'll make them do some turns a little bit. But for Kate, she's right-handed, so we would do normal right-handed hammer turns, just heel toe. But then I would make her go back the other way, and do it on the left side, and then just winds, winds on the right side, winds on the left side. And for a while, I mean, for like a week, 2 weeks, like every other day when we would grab the hammer, it was basically just like, you're going to do like X amount of sets of this many toe turns, right and left, and then
Yeah.
X amount of sets of this many winds. And then after that, we're going to do turns with the hammer in the hand. Coach Cook would do like, right-handed reps to kind of work on, staying patient and pushing the ball, Yuri push the ball, so
Yeah.
working on pushing the ball, and then left side to work on staying patient here and not leading.
Yeah.
So, kind of work into that, but really just a slow progression. And the foundation for everything is just getting them a ton of reps to where, they can heel toe. They're standing in line at lunch at school and they can do some heel toe turns, or like they're waiting in line to throw at practice and they're hitting some heel toe turns, just trying to get the reps, get the brain thinking that way. That's how I would start. And honestly, like, and it depends on when you get, I mean, this, like, it depends on when you get them, and how much they can handle, like where they're at developmentally, where they're at mentally. Some kids I mean, just, they can handle it or they can't, some kids, they just need to stay with their shot and their disc, and then the summer before they go off to, that's what I did with Ryan. I was like, Ryan, you're going to be a disc guy, a disc hand, but let's make you be a hammer guy too. So let's give you a base, but also like, the habits thing. I want to keep hammer general if they're going to go through at the next level, because the cues, the terminology, that's going to be different for their college coach. So, to me, it's safe to keep it to the basics, and it's not going to deteriorate. It's not going to, negatively affect them at the college level with their coach if I'm not throwing a whole bunch of language at them. So,
being a former offensive lineman, defensive lineman coming out of high school, kind of with your knees bent and flexed, do you feel you picked the hammer up pretty easy just because that was kind of a good position for you anyway?
Yeah, 100%. I think, when we got to school, we all kind of each had our own like specialty.
Yeah.
Like Kai, he was actually much smaller when he got there, but he was like 240, which is crazy to think of. But Kai was just a big unit of a man, right?
Yeah.
Ryan threw at Salado, threw 195 in the disc and high school, 57 in the shot, and he's 5'11". But his dad was a stud at Abilene. I mean, I think he toured Europe and everything back in the 80s or whatever, whenever he was throwing. So he knew throwing from like a, fifth or sixth grade. He was already doing stuff. And then Morgan was just kind of like country strong, like had a lot of power, because I stayed in the weight room and just, I've thrown enough hay bales or whatever. So like, and played enough football to like the explosive part of it in the legs I got. Unfortunately, and this is what killed me with that heavier shot put, I was very shouldery. And so, I was all tight in the hammer. So learning how to relax, that was the hard part. But from the leg side of things, like, cleaning and everything, I mean, could clean enough and squat, do everything lower body wise to throw it far. It was just trying to like get these to loosen up a little bit, because that, you get ahead of that hip with that 16-pound shot and that finger comes back here and you just want to go cry in your room by yourself. Yeah. That freaking shot put.
So, with your kids you train for throwing through Night Power and Performance, are you doing programming for them for lifting wise? And, because you mentioned earlier about some kids doing medicine ball drills and stuff like that. Do you teach them how to lift?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, with Ryan and with Kate, they were both in Abilene. Well, Kate was in Clyde, but close enough. But yeah, I told them, like, after their senior year, when they're done with their fall sport, like, if we're gonna, because I got a hold of Kate like it just before regionals or junior year, so had enough to like know that she had a lot of potential, but she was also very involved with volleyball. But I was like, man, when you're done, like, you're like, turn the reins over to me. And so, yeah, I have some spreadsheets that I've tweaked based on, I kind of used what we did with Cook, but also I learned a lot. Again, I learned a lot from Dane. He's a very educated meathead. And so he's got a lot of things that I really like. I listen to Krauser on a lot of his stuff, but he is so freaking smart that like you have to watch like he did a talk at Summer Strong for Sorinex a few years ago. And he's so smart. So, I want to pull stuff from him a little bit, but yeah, once they're done with their fall sport, their senior year, I'm like, hey, like technically like you're a senior, so like you don't really have to do off season. And to be honest with you, like you might as well be doing something that's specific to what you're going to do in the spring than doing just a generic, like off season program. So yeah, and then like if they want a summer program, again, I don't, it just kind of depends on the kid. Like up here, it's still kind of old school in the fact that like, and I didn't say old school. This is great. Like, I just don't want to pull them away from their team. Right.
Exactly.
So like, and again, I don't want today to ruin tomorrow. So usually during the summer, it's more of like hey, we're going to get together, do some fundamental stuff, maybe, focus on a couple of very basic things that we needed to work on from last season to try to fix, whether that's a posture issue or, a positional thing. But yeah, we may do a few things. Again, this freshman girl, like just teaching her how to be powerful, how to apply force to an object, is big for her. So, but yeah, you guys know as well as I do, like throwing is just, you can't, if you don't have the weight room, like you don't really have throwing. It's just way too closely correlated to neglect the weight room. Like, that's arguably, and Cook's philosophy is that's the hardest part of training. It's not the throwing, it's the weight room. But you got to do it. That's a heavy freaking implement, and you got to be ready to throw it.
And we're really pushing our off season a little bit longer this year, and I'm ramping up the programs individually for our kids, just to be in the weight room longer, just to kind of see what the result will be with maybe less training reps, but better weight room numbers. And how they correlate. Because I talk to coaches, collegiate coaches, and that's where the kids come into high school and think it's going to be a fairy tale happily ever after, and I'm going to throw 60 feet and win a national championship. In their techniques, and they've been told their technique is perfect, but they don't know how to lift. They don't know how to train as a lifter. They don't know how to eat as a lifter. They don't know how to sleep as all that as an athlete. And that's where they suffer, and that's where they fail. And I'm like, that's so critical for you to have that, to be able to go to the ring. That's not the stressful part. The stressful part is lifting and getting stronger. That's the stress that you got to handle.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have any data to back this up other than like just paying attention. But I would say that like 90% of high school athletes don't eat enough protein. And especially in a sport like throwing, like you've got like the recovery is so important. I agree with you. Like there's just so much stuff you can do to get your body to feel how to move an object like fast, and then also how to like just be strong, feel strong. That was Cook's philosophy. We all did. Kai did stupid numbers. He was benching 500. I watched him clean 495, and it looked god awful. He slapped it off his quads and but he by God did it. And just the fact that a man can move that much weight from his hips to his collarbone is like, that's why he could just smoke anything he touched. But Cook's aspect of his philosophy of that was like, man, if you feel strong in the weight room and you're moving weight that you never thought you'd move, how do you think that ball is going to feel in your hand now? Yeah. It's going to feel lighter. How do you think that disc is going to feel? That's another part of the demands of coaching that's so hard for, even like now so many schools are doing strength and conditioning coaches like that. He just does strength and conditioning. He may, he coached another sport, but then going off of like, you've got your track kids, you've got your baseball kids, you've got your softball. So like, and throwing is similar, but it's also not. There's just so many movement specific things you have to do in the weight room to correlate to throwing that it's just, it's hard because it's like athletic strongmen.
Yeah.
Because like strongman training is functional, but it's not sport specific. So there's just such a big part of the throws is training. And you just have to spend a lot of time with it.
The Texas Track and Field Coaches Association. Coaches education through our annual winter clinic, the state's #1 track and field clinic. Texas Track and Field promotion. Our postseason Meet of Champions. Lobbying efforts with the state's governing bodies. The Texas Track and Field Hall of Fame. If it involves Texas track and field, we're at the forefront. Join our mission in continuing to make Texas track and field the nation's best.
Yeah. Hey, going back to Ryan real quick, is, you know, he went from that 1.6 to that 2K, and you mentioned earlier about that transition of getting my foundation for hammer. What was your approach with him, or kind of that coaching avenue of like, okay, dude, you're stepping up to a bigger implement, and do you feel like you had to create a technique wise that would allow him to carry the 2K and almost kind of not be very effective with the 1.6?
Yeah. So what's funny is like with Ryan, he kind of does this thing where when he hits the finish, everything tightens up. You
Yeah.
know, like he's not staying smooth and transferring the throw out. He gets there and he's thinking like clean, explosive, and so he tightens everything up, and his body, you know, he extends his legs this way
Yeah.
instead of driving his hips that way in front of it. So, man, what was really helpful for Ryan is we threw the 1K,
Oh,
because
really?
yeah, dude, because you get that light implement in your hand and you tighten up at the finish, or you try to throw it hard,
You
you're
know
gonna
what?
shank the piss. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
shankopotamus, right? Like, so it made him like scale back. Okay, I got to really think about what I feel here, um, you know, and just really feel that drag, that separation. I have to do it, and that's where I mean, he saw the most improvements there, staying smooth through the finish and not tightening up. Um, and so yeah, from that, like, you know, when we're going to the 2K, a lot of it was just like, man, we just need to get you to feel it. You know, a lot of like rubber disc into the net, just, you know, because that way he's not discouraged about how far it is or isn't going.
Yeah.
But you know, that 2K, and he has, and you probably know this too, but like it's hard to find kids that have that natural flick, that natural release. Like it just comes off smooth and it drives. Like Nick Jones had it. I mean, he was really, it just always came out really flat, and he spun it really well. Ryan was the same. But, you know, when you get that heavier one, subconsciously you're tightening up here. You just don't know it. And, you know, you're like, oh, this is a heavier disc and it's flying really well, so I must be doing better. But in reality, you're tightening up and getting ahead. Yeah, you're getting ahead of that hip. So a lot of it was just, you know, throwing into the net and getting him to really feel the separation, not think about how far it's going or how it's flying, but just getting really like, probably, I mean, I admittedly, like a conviction of me from coaching is like a bit of a perfectionist. And I took, like, you know, coach to exaggeration. And sometimes I would take that too far, and like, you know, so I
Yeah.
have to really just make sure that I'm careful about like one thing at a time, and really just getting him that was a big part as well. After we got done with that 1K, it was just trying to get him to get away from this and feel like, hey, this is a much heavier implement. But once you feel it, you feel that loose, that connection from the hips through the core into the implement. You feel it one time, and you're going to chase that feeling, you know, the rest of the time you throw.
So, would you encourage high school boys to even pick up the 2K to kind of get a feel for it before they're trying to go off to college? Then,
Oh yeah.
okay,
I think if they're going to college, absolutely. I think the summer before, you know, I'm big on like the summer before, you know, that's not really a time to like, you know, you got to give your body a break.
yeah,
So, you know, I don't want them to like kill their summer or kill their body all through the summer. Like you do some fundamental stuff, you know, you do some like drills to work balance out of the back of the ring.
yeah.
You know, structurally, that kind of stuff. You know, I'll get all in on that. But yeah, I think if you're gonna go throw, you got to feel that 2K in your hand, because it's just different. It just feels like a beefcake when you
Yeah.
first grab it. So
And
um,
I think too that's where kids are maybe a little naive, and that's where little high school coaches are a little naive, is they don't understand that transition from that 1.6 to
yeah.
the 2K. And I had talked to somebody today, and you know, like we're the only country in the world that still does the 1.6. Everybody's at 1.75.
Oh,
You know,
really?
yeah, for the most part. Then the 2K. So in
Yeah.
that way, you know, are we kind of really behind? And if you're trying to be a high school kid who wants to go, you do U20s. He's got to do the 1.75. You know, so it's just, you know, and do you teach a technique that allows him to be able to get that thing around?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depending on the kid and stuff. I was just
I
kind of
agree. You know, the hard truth of it is that throwing just and track is just not as important. as it is in other countries. That's just the harsh truth of it. And that's why you and I, like, that's why us three do what we do. So like, but I agree. Like, there's just, the kids that throw, I had this guy, Timmy Jordan, he was, again, it was like he had this throwing was like, and he always said, like, the guys that throw the furthest are going to be your running backs and linebackers, because they can just explode. I mean, their hips, they can move it so fast. And that, those implements, as light as they are, they just figure out how to make it work. You can get away with some technical stuff because the implement's light enough. So yeah, I mean, I think if you got a kid that's serious about going and throwing at the next level, I think introducing the 175, like, sure, we go out to a high school meet, during when you're competing for UIL, like, yeah, throw the 1.6 and do it. But I ran into gosh, what's the Throwtown guy?
Caleb Seal.
Yeah, I ran into him at state, had a really good conversation with him, and he was like, dude, like, Texas State track meet is like the beginning. Like, you've got summer where you get in those big boy meets, and I admittedly haven't ever, been really a big part of that. So I kind of don't, I'm ignorant to a lot of how that works. But man, if you got kids that are doing that, I 100% agree that, they got to get those heavier discs in their hands and learn how to move it, because it's just different.
Yeah.
And obviously the shot put is, you know,
I didn't
way
bring up the
different.
shot put, but even that transition to that is like, he can make the transition from the 12 to the 16, and he benches this much, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but you go throw that 12 pound, that 16 every day, week after week after week. It
Dude,
takes a special kid.
I mean, I cleaned like 350 in high school, benched like about as much. And we started throwing the 16-pound shot, and we had every, like, cook, like, and it killed us. And so my freshman year, we had to do, like, we got like a rice bucket, and we got like forearm tools, and we would
Yes,
do
I know
grip
that
strength,
drill.
and
Yeah.
dude, because it ate all of our lunches. So I it bench press don't matter. These fingers, like, you get ahead of that shot, and it's just different, man.
For sure. Well, let's go back to your collegiate career. You had a lot of fame. Is there something in your your collegiate career that you're kind of most proud of? Coming out of Abilene Christian.
You know, you don't really realize it while you're doing it. I mean, we did as a team, you know, pretty much all of us were top 10 ACU all time in something. And, and I'm proud of it. Just ACU's, they've had some pretty good throwers, So, I mean,
Yeah.
for what it was, I mean, I still think I left a lot on the table, and that wasn't necessarily like athletically. I had a lot of growing up to do when I got to college that I didn't really realize that I needed to. And thank God for Cook, because Cook was the coach to do that. But
Yeah.
what I'm most proud of is, like, when you get on the other side of it, you see, track is an individual sport, but like what we had as a team, how there was very little drama. I mean, we were all supportive of one another. We would, as much time as we spent training, we spent that much time and more outside of it, whether that was in the library or going to eat. Like, on Wednesdays that was our off day for lifting, and so we'd throw at 11 or 11:30. And if you didn't have an afternoon class, we would all go from there, all of us together, and go to Sharky's and eat like a 3-pound burrito. But that was back when they wouldn't weigh it. They would you just tell them how much you want, you pay $8, and it's like, so we did stuff like that. And like when you get on the other side of that, and we had like 12 people in that graduating class. But you kind of see how the rebuild has happened after that, and you kind of hear about like the lack of team, maybe not teamwork, but like just the lack of connection and camaraderie. And you realize that, man, what we had was really special, and it was really pretty rare. And so I think I'm most proud of that. Just, what we accomplished, but what we accomplished together. I mean, to be honest with you, like Kayla and Anina going to nationals, that was, I mean, they earned that, but there should have been more of us that went. If that's my coulda, woulda, shoulda, it would be that. Was just like, sophomore year. I feel like sophomore year you have like a boom, like you have a big rise, because you kind of get it figured out. And then, after that, you either keep steadily climbing or you play. And I got, but sophomore year at OU, I threw like 56.85 in the disc. And it was like, that would have qualified for regionals, like for sure. But we were coming out of D2 to D1. So we were still in like probation. So you couldn't go compete after conference. And I wish so bad that I had gotten to go to regionals and crap my pants at that meet, just go and just go and like probably succumb to all the pressure and all like it's 3 throws. That's all you get. And all these big dogs throwing, just go and experience it so that you know what you're dealing with in the years after that. Because that meet is just brutal. Like anybody you ask, I mean, you've got the Turner Washingtons and the Geists, and you've got those guys that, because of how they competed in the meets they competed at, like, they were just going to make it work. But like, for us, I mean, I wish I had done that. You know what else? I think we had 4 guys in the A section final at Texas Relays our last year. And that was really cool because that was when like Otterdahl was at North Dakota State. And I don't know, I forget his name. Who's the head coach in Nebraska?
Justin St. Clair.
Yeah, St. Clair. Yeah. He was, so I remember him and Cook, and he came over to Cook and Cook was like, man, great job. He was like, he's like, I like it when us little guys stick it to the big schools. So we're in there competing with guys from Tech, A&M, Texas, whoever, wherever. We were right there throwing with them. So 4 guys in the A section at relays was pretty cool. We went 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Southland one year. I mean, the way that we brought points at conference for those years that we were there, like all across the board in all the throws, I loved that. And I love that we were able to compete in like all the event, like shot, disc. We had Jav guys later in my college career, but like part of Cook's philosophy is he recruits athletic people because he is so big on development. Like, okay, you're at Abilene Christian, right? So the odds are kind of stacked against you as far as like, well, you got Big Brother Tech right up the road. Yeah. Okay. So you're gonna get, like, no offense to me or whoever we got, you're gonna get tier 2 guys, like, guys and girls. Like, you're not gonna get tier 3, like top level folks. So you just got to know that the kids you're getting are going to be underdeveloped, but you got to see them for like A, their work ethic, B, like what do they bring to the team as far as like a person, and then you got to like have a body, a frame that you can develop. And so he recruited athletes, and we all threw 3 events. And I mean, you could hammer and weight, I'm kind of using as the same, but I thought that was great. I liked that we had some versatility. I think that shows a lot about Coach Cook and shows a lot about our team buy-in.
Yeah. As a thrower, which was your favorite, weight, disc, or shot? Or hammer?
Like nationally, I was better at disc. When I was going to like out of high school, I threw like 60 feet in high school, and I didn't have a private coach I had like this guy that, really loved to throw. And then, so like, I kind of was like, man, I'm fixing to go and just like be a freaking shot putter. And so it took me a while to like, I wish I had been a little more open-minded because I would have liked to see what disc would have turned into. But, before I blew my Achilles, I would get in the ring and still throw with the kids, throw discus with them. I tried shot, it'd be all right. Shot put, the thing about shot put, it's very love-hate because it hurts, but man, when you hit it, and I was talking to a kid about this the other day, when you hit that shot and it flicks off those fingers just right, it's like, oh, I want to feel that again. So you keep chasing it. I don't think I appreciated hammer as much until after I graduated, but hammers, I think that's a lot of fun. I just didn't, buy into it, but I would say discus is probably my favorite. I mean, but like for somebody that loves throws, I can find something to love about all of them.
Well, that's funny because I was about to ask you as a coach, which you like to coach, and all of it.
I think shot, it's funny to me when kids like, well, I just throw discus. And it's like, okay, we'll see, right? Because like, hey, like, let's open your mind up a little bit. Like, you just got to give shot a chance, because shot really, like, that's a mindset thing too, is shot put though. Like that's what I like about shot put is when you get to the right place, you can kind of get in there and you can get after it a little bit. Obviously still a ton of technique as with anything in throws, but like the fact of the matter is it's just a freaking heavy implement. It's kind of the same thing with weight, weight, you can goose it a little bit, but disc, if you try to goose it, you're going to cage it, you know? So like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I all of
Go
them,
ahead, sorry.
yeah.
I was going to say, it's just all kind of the individualized of what the thrower has and all that type of stuff. And that's with us, you know, shot discus thrower, never touched hammer at all. And now I think about hammer 24/7. I love hammer. And it just infatuated with it. Now I
Yeah.
look back and I was like, shit, wish somebody would have showed me how to do hammer.
I know. I like it's fun. Like, and you know, it's not so unilateral. You know, you get to work both feet a little bit more, and like, man, it really is it's a cool implement. It's a cool event, and like, you know, that's you know, for discus, like I was telling some, you know, basic principles, like discus is fun because it goes far. Well, hammer's fun because it goes far. Yeah, exactly. And shot put's fun because it's heavy, and it's like not everybody can grab a shot put and go throw it, you know?
Yeah, and when we were at, I don't know if we talked about this, but when we were at Paris, we sat right behind the cage for hammer. And to watch them warm up and just see the speed and velocity of Anita and Deanna Price and you know the Cameron Rogers, you know, who won type stuff, and just see just how explosive, because we watched disc too, and disc was fun, but you could tell as soon as it come out of their hand if that disc was going to turn over and die because that was in that stadium. But that hammer was,
dude. I think like this is the physicist part of the kinesiological physicist thing, but like I think I mean I don't have any data, but like I think for that size of ring, that amount of space, that's probably pretty close to the most velocity you can create in like that amount of like. There's got to be like, you know, you guys ever watch Sports Science they used to do on like man, if they could do one for that, you know, that because it's truly incredible what these guys can do with that hammer. Like it's just really cool. Like I would go when I was finished competing, you know, and I was a GA, and I would go in there, and like one of the guys that was like a freshman, sophomore when we were all old, he was still throwing there, and you know, kind of the young bull, old bull, he was kind of talking some smack, and I was like, I bet I get in there and beat you in hammer right now. And it was so frustrating because Cook gave me one cue that I don't remember getting in college because I probably wouldn't listen, but like it was chest away. And I never heard chest away, but it was just like, you know, step, catch, find your chair, and then chest away. And so I was like, all right, cool. So I did chest away and like smoked it, like pretty much what I threw in college. And I was like, you know, that's what I love about throwing too, is because, man, you stay around it and you know, you still coach it and everything. Like, you know, you can hop in there and still move, you know, it's just, you can still reproduce those movements.
Yeah, I love cues. So I'm going to ask. So chest away after the first catch, meaning just kind of get extension with the radius.
Yeah, like similar to like counter, like you know, like chest, sit in your chair and count. Like sit in your chair is more like a lower body thing.
Yeah,
but just you know counter. So I don't, you know, and Cook was a pretty good hammer thrower in his own right. I mean, for you know, and he'd still hop in there every now and again with his tenny runners on and grab him a girl's hammer and smoke it. And we were just kind of like, oh, we better not suck because like, you know, coach is looking pretty good. But yeah, he just told me chest away. And for some reason, like I had the chair and I had, you know, and it just felt right. I was like, oh, okay. Like that makes sense. Like, you know, and it just, you know, it just felt good. You just felt a lot of separation, or not separation, but a lot of distance from between you and the hammer.
Yeah, we had Roger Garrett on who threw at UTSA.
And
him and his coach had the cue of he liked Oreo cookies, and so in the middle to hold the wrap, he would think Oreo to get like a circle, and that's how he would engage his hips, was the circulation of the Oreo.
Oh my gosh!
Cue, and it stuck with him. And it's funny on some of my kids. That's a stupid cookie cue, but it relates. And that's the one thing I love about throwing and doing this podcast is my cue might be something off the wall, but your cue might be the same thing, but totally different verbiage, meaning the same thing, just because you know, we all
It
think
makes
it's
sense to
different.
the kid.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, like I have one story and then I have one comment. So the story is, have you guys ever seen Wild Hogs with Tim Allen and
Oh
and
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, with John Travolta, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, well there's a scene in there where they're like, you got to go slap that bull, right? So they're in there, you got to go slap him and then run away from. Well, in the weight, you know, I would step, catch, and I would turn, you know, like it's so fast, you just get here and do that. And so he would tell me to slap the ball. And I was like, Coach, have you ever seen Wild Hogs? You got to think slap the bull. So I would literally get there with the weight, step, catch, slap the bull. And that's what made me think about accelerating the weight.
Oh my
So,
God.
like, so yeah, I get the funny cue thing, slap the
Whatever
bull.
works.
Yeah. I mean, it
That
didn't
is
work as
awesome. I'm gonna write that down.
it didn't work as well for
I
Hammer
just
because
don't
Hammer
know
takes so
what
much longer. You know, it's so much more like it's so
Yeah.
much more drag, but the weight is so fast that like if you don't accelerate your right side when you step, you're behind or you're in front actually. And then yeah, so a good example of like what you just said is, you know, Ryan goes to TCU and they hire Jerry. And you know, when Ryan comes home, when he comes back to Abilene, we always meet up and he wants to throw. And so the first time he came back, I was like, all right, Ryan, I want you to tell me like what are the goals, like what are the cues that your coach is telling you? Like
Yeah.
you tell me what cues, what's the goals of him during your throws? Because I don't want this isn't going to be a comeback and be coached by Morgan because like I'm not going to deter you from what you're doing. So to your point, I still apply the same principles, right? So like I'm big on like linear, like I'm big on like everything moving in the same direction, right? So but this coach may, you know, he may teach throw a big left out of the back, right? Get a big rotation. Well, I'm like, hey, that's great. It's just when you do that, you know, to get, you know, your hips going in the right direction, maybe you got to think like, you know, I would tell Ryan, big hips, big chest, right? So if you're going to throw that left, you better, by God, make sure that your hips aren't behind you, you know, so you got to think big hips too, big right side so that you stay in front of the disc. So like, it's great because like, if we all have the same mindset of like it's what's best for the kid, you know, they can go to any coach worth their salt and just the coach is going to be like, hey, like, you know, tell me what you're working on, like tell me what your coach wants you to be doing, and then like you can adjust, like you can still use your cues or your mindset, but like it's not going to mess them up. So, and I love that about throwing. Like I love that he can come home from, you know, and I talked to Jerry at or Terry, can't remember which one it is.
Terry Hughes.
It's Terry Hughes. I always think Jerry Hughes, the defensive end in the NFL. Yeah. So I ran into Terry at relays, and I ran into. I was like, hey man, like, how's Ryan doing? Checking. He's like, man, he's great. He's body. I was like, great. I was like, man, I just want you to know, like, when he comes home, like, I asked him like what you're doing with him. Like, there's no animosity. Like, I'm about what's best for Ryan, and you're his coach. So when he comes home, like, I ask him what you guys are working on, and then I'll, you know, basically just coach off of that. You know, I may say it a little different than you do, and that could be refreshing, but I don't challenge you at all. And so I think like that's the brotherhood. That's the, you know, that's the side of throwing that I think is really, really cool.
Awesome. Cool. Well said. So let's go back to high school in Spring Hill, Texas. You know, you were state champion. You know, that had to be a high point in your throwing career for high school, right?
Yeah. So again, I thought I was a shot putter. And so like sophomore year, I go to regionals and there's a guy named Jordan Roos from Salina. So we were in regional, like Salina was in Argyle. And then our district was obviously 3A now 4A, but back then it was 3A. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and then we had like Kilgore, Carthage, Gladewater, Gilmer, Chapel Hill, all those guys in our district. And so there's these two cats from Salina, Jordan Roos and Tyler Fink, who threw at UTSA. Well, Roos like played in the NFL for a little bit. Like he's like 6'6", you know, he played at Purdue, like just a stud, right? Well, so then like junior year, I'm like, all right, it's me versus Fink, right? And shot. Didn't really think much about disc. I never really thought much about disc. But you know, we go junior year and you kind of make it out, you know, you get to regionals and you make it, okay, crap, we're going in both. You know, and then again, I was still like, I wanted to get first in by God shot put, you know, like I'm a shot putter. And so you come out and you crank one in the disc, okay, and you end up getting first there. It's like, well, okay, I didn't expect it, like, you know, but this is like, yeah, it was just so cool because up to that point, like, growing up, man, I was all about football. Like, I watched all the NFL films with my dad, like, all the old school, like, you're watching the 70s, like Steelers and Cowboys. Like
Yeah.
I was all football. And so you get into this throwing thing and you're just like, wow, this is kind of, this is new, but it's a lot of fun. It's cool because, each rep, there's something to change. And
Yeah.
I've grown to really appreciate that now. That mindset that you can have where, technically, I'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, but as you go and you just really think into it. I told my girls this last year when they were competing for state. I was like, girls, like, if they get to a practice where they've got a lot of pressure and they're just kind of feeling bogged down, like, girls, like, let's remember you're one of the top 9 throwers in the state of Texas right now, right? So,
Yeah.
like, what are you stressed about? What are you worried about? Let's enjoy where we're at. Let's enjoy the moment and let's work hard. We're not going to let, regrets or pressure or potential like regret, like, we're not going to let that ruin us. So, yeah, I think, mentally that's helped me a lot as a coach now. But yeah, at the time, I think it was just so awesome because, the state meet is just a ton of fun. You
Yeah.
get down there well, it's a ton of fun for a thrower. I don't know about runners, but, you're like, hey, you throw good, and we're going to eat us some good barbecue. Like, yeah, we'll even get some dessert. Yeah, right. It's like that's. So, but I think it just showed me that like I could do it. Like, okay, I can be like, a one of the best thrower in the state. I mean, like it just showed me that I could do it. And so again, kind of opened the avenue to, so many kids don't know anything other than baseball, football, basketball, volleyball. And this was kind of like, oh, this track thing, like that could be a thing.
Did you feel like you were fighting the norm of trying to become a thrower in high school? Because in
Yes.
East Texas, District of Doom, football rules, and what are you doing out throwing? And we don't even have a discus ring. Where are you going to throw?
Yeah, dude, no, we actually, like, the shot put ring that I practiced on didn't have a toe board.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so like I had like I was gonna go to the A&M track camp, but it like butted up too close to two-a-days, and so my coaches were like, hey, you probably shouldn't go. I kind of wish I had, because that would have been like, I grew up like my parents are A&M or Aggies. Two of my brothers, like, I grew up going to A&M games, like, so that would have been kind of cool to see. But anyway, so like, yeah, and I was kind of like, all right, yeah, you're right, like, senior year of football, whatever. And I was really struggling with choosing between football and track. And I had a coach tell me, like, man, I think your ceiling's a lot higher in football than it is in track. And I was like, okay, like, this is kind of like, that's kind of a gut punch. You're like, you're kind of fired up, like, I'm returning, going back to state, like, you're like, man, I think I could do this at the next, this is cool. You're, again, once you get hooked on those YouTube videos, you watch those competitions of like, the world champs from like, Cantwell and Storrell and like, Nelson. Yeah, you watch Nelson, dude. You watch Nelson, you're like, man, this is all, you watch like that Berlin games from 09, where freaking Robert Harding comes out on that last throw. Like, man, you watch that stuff and it's like, man, this is awesome, right? But yeah, I really, that's a great question, because it absolutely didn't, it didn't feel right. And but again, like, I think, once I went to ACU, and visited with Cook and did my official visit and everything, like, I mean, I knew at that point, like, I didn't even take my other visits for football or anything, because like, I just knew, like, as soon as I got there, I knew it. So that was a tough decision for me, because it was, I'm having these coaches saying like, hey, I think you should do football, because of where we're at, but I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. Did you think about playing football maybe at Abilene Christian any?
Yeah, the good thing was is that there was a guy there that was already doing that. Nick did that for 2 years, and then he went straight track, and look what happened. But yeah, there's another guy there that was doing that, and I think what deterred me from that was you have to put so much time into both of those to be good, that you're really just gonna you may be, yeah, and ultimately, like if you're on football and that's where your money's coming from on scholarship, like that's where your time's going to go.
Yeah.
But I was there when a guy that would, could have been a pretty good thrower. I mean, he wasn't bad, but he could have been a lot better. But once I understood like how much time you have to put into change technique, because like you said, coming out of high school, you're like, man, I got pretty good technique. I got pretty good form. And then you get to college and you're like, oh man, I suck. Like this is bad. And so once you understand, I'm not gonna say big picture, but a bigger picture of what you did when you got there, it's just like, man, you can't, not all of us are like Bryce, not Bryce Young, Bryce,
Bryce Foster.
yeah, not all of us are Bryce Foster. I mean, that dude's just a freakazoid.
Yeah.
And like there was like two twins that played D tackle at Nebraska when I was competing, and they were 55-meter disc throwers, 54-meter disc throwers. But that's just hard to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And especially somebody that has many bad habits as I did.
So my last question, because we're kind of running out of time, is if that high school boy's listening, he's battling between playing football and the urge and passion to maybe go throw, what advice would you give him?
That's a good question. I think you just, I told somebody the other day, Coach Collins over at Denton Ryan, he had his girl that is throwing with Penn State guy. Oh gosh, Darrell Hill up at Delaware. Yeah. And he asked, he was kind of like, man, what should she, when she goes on these visits, what should she ask? And I think it comes down to, you really have to look at what's good for you. You got to think about what's good for you, right? But you got to think about what your future looks like. If you have a coach, like that's the thing that drew me. It was like Cook asked questions about like, hey, what do you like? What are your goals, right? Like, and then he, I would ask him like, well, this is what I told her to ask. Like, what's your goals for me? What do you see me doing? What are the things that you see that I do well right now in throwing? What are the things that you think I need to work on? What's your mindset on, like team unity? What's your mindset on, some of these like foundational things, athletically, but also like as a person? Because the thing that I wouldn't trade is that group, that mixture of athletes and personalities with Coach Cook as the leader. How we all, I never would have gotten like grown as much as I did if Cook wasn't the head coach and we didn't have that team. I think if, kind of what I said earlier, and this is, a stereotype, may or may not be true, but I think once I met with Cook, what kind of kept me away from football was, I really enjoy football, love football, but man, I didn't want to be in an atmosphere where, like anger and rage was like praised as like a good thing, like, yeah, get mad at him, boy, go hit him, that's just, that to me is a slippery slope if it sneaks into outside of your sports life. I think there's a time and a place to like, flip that switch, but that's what I was worried about is like the potential culture of football. Again, not all places are like that. I'm not saying that. And I think, and you have to it depends on the kid too, right? Like some kids respond better to that. I did not. And so Cook had hard conversations with me off the ring, outside of the ring. But man, like throwing teaches you a lot. And so if you're ready to come, you got to learn patience. You have to learn execution. You have to like, there's such a big picture way of learning how to throw, because you want to get in there and you want to succeed. You want to get in there like, man, I've been watching YouTube videos of like these guys that throw so far. I just want to, and I feel like I can do that. I've put in the work. I'm eating right. I'm sleeping right. Cause I got that bug early. JJ Watt was like kind of blowing up when I was in high school. So all the sleep and eating thing, I was like all in on that. Man, I'm doing all the right things. Why am I not throwing further? And then it just builds up this frustration inside you that just turns into rage. And if I hadn't had Cook there to like call me out on that and sit me down and be like, dude, what is the problem? Like, why are you so angry? And it would turn into a breakdown conversation. And so that's helped me now. I mean, as a dad, as a husband, and especially as a coach, where, man, like you have to view your reps as an opportunity to learn. Like if you have that picture, I finally figured it out like later in my career with Cook, but like, man, if your mindset is in practice anyway, if your mindset in practice is like, I'm going to attack this rep with every ounce of my being, the very best effort that I can give, mentally, physically, spiritually, I'm going to give it all on this throw. Bang.
Yeah.
Okay, that didn't work out. Let me listen to what my coach says. What did my coach see? What is he seeing that I did or didn't do? And then think about how to connect that. And so there's some deeper level stuff from a thrower that you can learn. Again, football can teach you a ton of lessons too. I played football a long time and I loved it. A long time considering, high school, whatever. And I think there's a lot of good things you can learn from football. But man, like the throwing aspect, it's just not as easy as like, hey, I'm more athletic than every single one of you booger bears out here, but I ain't throwing further than you, and that is very, very humbling. And it's a good thing. It can be a good thing. Like, it just teaches you where to have your confidence, where to apply, your efforts. And because again, like the way Cook recruited, there was a lot of meets where we walked out there and we're like, dude, we're the most athletic guys out here. Like we could, but it don't matter. It does not matter. Like, it's execution of technique and who is mentally prepared for the moment. And that, I think, that is hard. That's two very hard things for athletes, but also people in life. Just to know is like, are you mentally ready for the situation, and what's your execution going to be like?
Great answer. Very good answer, man. So, well, dude, outstanding job. And I know you probably got to get up early tomorrow, go to work. So,
oh, it's good, dude. I could do this all day. This is good stuff. I love what you guys do, and I love the awareness that it's bringing. And dude, 20,000 people, subscribers there. That's like,
I know. We look at our downloads and we're like, holy cow! Like, literally, we are in every
country,
not every country,
or
every continent.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
In Australia who even listen to us.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And hey, to your, like, it could be just because we're like on the inside, but like I feel like there's a stirring for throwing. Like, it's just it's exciting times for throwing right now. So it's cool to be a part of this and to be a part of all the connections, and the fact that like I can come in here and like, oh, what's that guy from this time? And then you guys know it. Like, not every conversation, you can't do that in every conversation, So it's that brotherhood. It's all, we got to stick together, Like, ACU track and field has such tradition, and I'm like so proud just to be able to like say that I went to Abilene Christian and competed on the track team because of the history there.
All right, well, we'll see you.
See you guys. Good to visit with you. Bye.
We'd like to thank Morgan for being on. Just great passion, but also he's a kid that's kind of just doing his calling, and coaching is in his heart. You can just tell. I know he has aspirations or dreams of maybe doing it in college or at a high level, but right now he's making an impact. He's trying to take care of his family and those two little kids and take care of his wife. And so you're going to be hearing more about Night Power and Performance and what they got going on there. So just a great mentor to the youth, especially a kid coming from East Texas where you go against the norm of being a high school football player, and you kind of get out of that comfort zone and you kind of follow your heart and passion, and that passion for Morgan was definitely throwing. Not to say that you can't be a dual sport athlete, not to say that you can't do both. There's a lot of kids in Texas that think they can't do both, and Morgan is an example of a kid who could possibly, be a high-level football player or other sport, baseball or basketball, but then also can concentrate and focus on having a great high school throwing career that's going to catapult him to possibly go to college as well. And if you're a youth guy and you're looking to get development, what better mentorship to have than Morgan? Morgan's had a lot of trials and tribulations in his life, personally and for throwing, and he could be a great mentor to a young thrower, female or male. So if you have any questions or want to work with Morgan, just go to our website, thethornfactory.com, and look under the coaches tab, and you'll find Morgan's information there. Or you can even follow him on social media as well on an Instagram page. So we'll see y'all down the road. Thank you.
All right, we want to thank our sponsors for Season 8, Texas Track and Field Coach Association. Go to ttfca.org for all the information. Winter Clinic coming up, a lot of great speakers. This would be a great one to go to if you've never been. Go to this one. We got a lot of Olympic speakers that are talking. 4throws.com, quality implements priced right. Go to 4throws, use the code TALKINGTHROWS10 to get your 10% off. on all the tools that they have there. NTX timing. Let Carl Hornback manage your meets. Give them a call. Get them on your schedule for your meets coming up this spring so they can let you do your job of coaching, and they will run that meet for you. Big Frogs of Colleyville for all your embroidery needs. Go to Colleyville at bigfrog.com, and then our...
Hello, Talk and Throws Texas podcasters. I'm Bruce Caldwell. I'm here today to introduce the Fiber Sport Discus. Yes, many of you thought I only made great vaulting poles. I have been bringing quality discuses to the throwers' hands for over 40 years. First as Cantabrian USA representative, then for the past 10 years as the Nelco Discus distributor. I introduced the yellow-plated discus for the plastic's best durability. If your Fiber Sport discus breaks, we replace it. Our studies have reached into the science of using a wind tunnel and adding microchips to the discus to find the spin, the gravity, the flight stability of the discus. We have found it's not about rim weight anymore. It's more about creating a balanced stability to allow the discus to fly and surf the wind. Our new Fiber Sport discus is made to be selected to fit your needs, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. Check out our discus selection guide at fibersportdiscus.com and find a dealer in your area that sells our fine product. Thank you, Jason and Janelle, for allowing me to talk with your listeners on Talk and Throws Texas Style.
Our Lifting DFW mobile fitness station, and go to the Throwing Factory for our shopping page. Looking to start throwing anything, reach out to Morgan. We've got other coaches, you've got us, we've got lots of things.
Our new javelin coach, Kendall.
Lots of things that you can reach out and reach out and find something that fits your needs at your location. And then, as always, check out our YouTube channel. Give us a like, and that's all we have.
All right, we'll see y'all down the road.
Thank you.
you.